Hey guys, it's Pet here to answer some questions about the BC tax assessment. By now you've probably gotten this letter in the mail. It's either gone up, which means your home is worth more, or it's gone down, which means you owe less taxes. Well, no, yes, maybe, it depends. They don't always go hand in hand. To understand this, it's important to know how the tax assessment process works in BC. There's two parts of the tax assessment. Number one is how much your home is worth. And number two is how much does the city and province need to cover their bills for the year. It's important to note that these two things don't always go hand in hand. They're actually completely separate from each other. There's an independent crown corporation that does the assessment for the province. Their only job is to figure out what the properties in the province are worth. They have no say in how much we actually need to pay. That part is left to the government. They have bills to pay and it's our responsibility to chip in. That'll include things for police, fire, roads, hospital, parks, schools, libraries, things like that. The city uses a formula that's adjusted every year depending on how much they need for each of these things. And that's why you might owe more even though your tax assessment is less this year and vice versa. This is why your BC tax assessment only determines the proportion of what you owe and not what the actual amount is. Neighboring cities chip in for these services as well. White Rock's a good example of this. They have all these services right in their area, but they're commonly shared with people from Surrey. If White Rock had to pay for all these services on their own with a population of only 18,000 people, the property taxes in White Rock would be through the roof. That brings us to what determines what your property is worth based on their assessment. They'll basically take into account anything that a realtor would or that you would even put value on, and that includes things like the size of your house, the size of your lot, what kind of shape your house is in, how old is your house, do you have a view, how desirable is your neighborhood. You can tell by this list that there's a lot of things that they have to make assumptions on, since obviously they don't come by your house every year. That being said, if you think that your assessment is off, you do have a right to appeal it, and you have until January 31st to do so. You should also know that there are some exemptions that you might be entitled to. The most common ones that we'll see in our areas here are for farmland, veterans, and seniors. The most common one though is the partial rebate you get if you actually live in your home. It's called the homeowner's grant. You'll get a partial rebate, and that's for people that live in their house and it won't apply to any investment properties that you might own. For those ones there, you'll have to pay the full tax amount. And you also notice that most times the assessment amount that comes in varies quite a bit from what your home is actually worth. I already mentioned that the province has to make certain assumptions, which is a small part of this. The other part is that by the time that you get that assessment in the mail, it's already 6 months old. That assessment is based on a snapshot of what your home was worth on July 1st of the previous year. That's a long time ago in real estate time. The market is very dynamic, especially in BC. And when we do assessments as realtors, we only like to go back 3 months at the most. So don't worry if you feel like your assessment is off from what your home is actually worth. If you want to know what your house value is, just contact a local realtor and we could do one up for you, no problem, for free. I hope this answers any questions that have come up when you got that letter in the mail. If there's anything else you'd like to know, feel free to leave a comment or just send me an email and I'll get back to you with the answer.